My compass needle keeps twitching. 3 taps. Always 3 taps. Grandma's compass, brass worn smooth from her thumb, then Dad's thumb, now mine, grinding circles into the metal. The needle points north, or maybe northeast. Hard to tell when your hands shake like autumn leaves and the brass faces crack straight through the middle. Tap. North is where the green zone's supposed to be. The Beacon Valley settlement. I heard about it from the trader with the limp 2 weeks back. No, 3 weeks. Time gets slippery when you're watching dirt turn to dust faster than you can walk. He said north of the Ashford ruins, definitely north. Green grass, clean water, soil that still grows things instead of just consuming them. But what if I misheard him? What if he said south? But my boots are falling apart. These boots walked me out of Millhaven when the ground started cracking in perfect hexagons. Weird shapes, too neat for nature. Like someone was drawing on the earth with a massive compass. Ironic, considering mine won't stay still. The leather split across the left toe, flapping when I walk, making this wet slapping sound that reminds me of Mom hanging laundry in the rain. Back when we had rain that didn't taste like metal filings. The compass keeper, that's what the others call me, obsessed with direction when direction might not matter anymore. The plant eater thinks I'm losing it. She's probably right. Yesterday I caught myself talking to the compass like it was a person, asking it why the needle keeps drifting when I need it to stay true. The wasteland's coming from somewhere, spreading like spilled ink, but I can't pin down the source. Could be east. Could be anywhere. Tap, tap, tap. We can't stay here. The words come out as a whisper, though the plant eater is sitting right next to me by our pathetic excuse for a fire. More smoke than flame, burning scraps of wood that crackle wrong like they're already half dead inside. She looks up from the handful of berries she's been sorting. Green ones in her left palm, purple in her right. The soil's still brown here. Brown safe, you said. Did I say that? The rules keep shifting in my head. Brown soil is safe, black soil is dying, gray soil is… what was gray again? The Great Dust Fall took the rulebook with it when it buried Elder Ridge 3 months ago. Or 4 months. The seasons don't make sense anymore when autumn lasts 6 weeks and spring never comes. Brown turns gray overnight, I tell her, watching the compass needle swing lazily toward the east. Always east. Gray turns black by morning. Black turns to nothing by noon. It's true. I've seen it happen, watched good farming soil turn to fine powder that gets into your lungs and stays there, scratching at your throat until you're coughing up mud. The plant eater found some kind of moss yesterday that she swears will help with the coughing, but moss doesn't grow in dead zones. So either she's wrong about the moss, or we're closer to the creeping edge than I thought. The wind picks up, carrying that sound again. Not quite a hum, not quite a whistle, like the earth itself is singing a funeral song. The storm runner heard it first, claimed it was just air moving through the cracks, but cracks don't make harmonics. Cracks don't hold notes that make your teeth ache. Tap, tap, tap. My ritual's getting worse. 3 taps when I'm nervous, 6 when I'm scared, 9 when no, I'm not counting that high tonight. The compass face is cracked right down the middle, splitting the N in half. Been that way since I dropped it during the evacuation from Millhaven. Still works, mostly. Still points north. North to safety, north to the green zone. But what if I'm wrong about the direction? Beacon Valley had this nervous laugh like he wasn't sure about his own words. Beacon Valley, he said, due north of the Ashford ruins. I've never been to Ashford. Don't know if it's really north of here or if I'm navigating by fairy tales and desperate hope. What if it's south? What if I've been leading us toward the wasteland all along? The plant eater makes a small, choking sound. She's got her hand pressed to her mouth, staring at the berries in her lap. Purple juice is leaking between her fingers, dripping onto the dusty ground where it actually hisses like acid on stone. Those were safe, she whispers. I tested them. I know the rules. Green berries are poison, purple berries are food. The rules. Always the rules, and none of us can remember who made them or why we trust them. I learned them from the settlement chief back in Millhaven, who learned them from his grandfather, who probably learned them before the world started eating itself from the inside out. Did you test them on this soil? I ask, though I already know the answer from the way her shoulders hunch. Soil looks the same as yesterday, she mutters, but her voice cracks. I look down at the ground around our fire. Still brown, mostly, but there are these thin veins of gray threading through the dirt like infection spreading through a wound. Too straight to be natural weathering. The same geometric patterns that started showing up in Millhaven right before the big collapse. A week before the ground opened up and swallowed the courthouse, the general store, and half the houses on Maple Street. Tap, 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 tap. The plant eater is retching now, doubled over and spitting purple foam. The storm runner comes running from his watch post, takes one look at her, and starts gathering our gear without a word. He's got good instincts. Better than mine, apparently. How long do we have? He asks me like I'm some kind of expert on soil death and berry poison. I check the compass again. The needle is pointing northeast now, definitely northeast, which should be good farther from the wasteland's edge, but the humming sound is getting louder. That funeral song the wind makes when it moves through places where nothing will ever grow again. Maybe 6 hours before this spot goes gray, I tell him, though I'm guessing. The timing's gotten unpredictable lately. Sometimes the change takes days, sometimes minutes. Sometimes you wake up and your campsite is already gone, dissolved into fine dust that tastes like burnt metal and broken dreams. The plant eater is still sick, but she's trying to pack her things between waves of nausea. Tough woman. Tougher than me, probably. I just stare at maps and tap compasses while she actually finds our food. Found our food. Past tense now that even the safe berries are turning toxic. We need to keep moving, I say, more to convince myself than them. The compass needle swings lazily between north and northeast. The green zone's got to be up ahead somewhere. But as we break camp, I notice something that makes my stomach drop. The geometric patterns in the soil aren't random. They're forming shapes, symbols maybe, or letters. Hard to tell in the dim firelight, but there's definitely intention behind the design. The wasteland isn't just spreading, it's trying to tell us something. What if the trader with the limp was wrong? What if I heard him wrong? What if we've been walking toward disaster this whole time and the only real safety is behind us, in the direction we came from? The humming gets louder as we pack, layering harmonies that shouldn't exist in nature. And for just a moment, maybe it's the stress, maybe it's the bad air, I swear, I can make out words hidden in the sound. Come back, come home, come down where everything is quiet. Tap, 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 tap. I'm counting too high now, tapping the compass face like it's Morse code for help. The needle spins lazy circles, pointing everywhere and nowhere. North, northeast, east, all the directions looking the same in this gray pre-dawn light. The same ending. But we keep walking anyway, following my best guess north because hope is harder to kill than soil. Sometimes being wrong is better than standing still, even when you can't tell if the ground behind you is singing or screaming. 3 miles. That's how far the death line moved while we slept, and I know because I measured it wrong. Again, I've been scratching marks into the brass rim of Grandma's compass with a bent nail, each scratch representing a measurement point where I thought I understood the wasteland's progression. But my triangulation is garbage. Dad would be ashamed. I keep forgetting to account for elevation changes, keep misjudging distances because I'm too tired to count steps properly. The wasteland doesn't creep like I've been mapping it. It leaps in patterns that make my teeth ache just thinking about them. Tap, tap, tap. You're doing it again, the storm runner says, not looking up from his inventory of our water bottles. 3 bottles, half empty. Maybe enough for 2 days if we ration carefully. Maybe. The plant eater hasn't spoken since the purple berry incident 6 hours ago. She keeps touching her throat like it's still burning, occasionally spitting into the dust to check if her saliva's still the right color. Clear is good. Purple foam means you're dying. We learned that rule the hard way. But here's what's eating at me. She was right about the berry colors. I remember the settlement chief's rules clearly now. Crystal clear, like they've been etched in my brain with acid. Green berries kill quick. Purple berries feed you. Blue berries make you see things that aren't there. Simple. Logical. We've been following those rules for months. So why did the purple berries suddenly turn toxic? Unless I'm misremembering. What if the rule was purple berries are poison and I've been carrying around backwards information this whole time? Starvation does things to your brain, makes you confident about facts that might be fiction. I pull out my makeshift map, a piece of torn canvas covered in scratches and stains. Each X marks a spot where the soil went gray. Each circle shows where we found safe food. Each triangle, the triangles are where people died. Too many triangles lately. The pattern's all wrong, I mutter, tracing the progression of dead zones with a shaky finger. It should spread outward from a central point, like a disease. But look, I hold the map toward the storm runner, though half my marks probably don't mean what I think they mean. It's not spreading randomly. He squints at my scratches and scrawls. War against what? Against everything that grows. The compass needle swings northeast again. Always northeast when I'm scared. Due north when I'm calm. But I haven't been calm in weeks, so maybe I've been following the wrong direction all along. What if the safe zone, Beacon Valley, is due north, and I've been leading us on a diagonal path toward disaster? Math was never my strong point. Dad tried to teach me surveying when I was 12, but I got distracted by bird calls and cloud shapes instead of learning how to read elevation markers. Wish I'd paid attention now. Wish I knew if compass readings get disrupted when the magnetic field goes haywire from whatever's causing this. What if my needle's been pointing toward the wrong kind of north this entire time? We need to check the soil ahead, I tell them, standing up and brushing dust off my knees. The geometric patterns from our last campsite are still burnt into my memory, too perfect, too intentional. Like someone was drawing blueprints for the end of the world. The plant eater finally speaks, her voice rough as sandpaper. I found something while you were mapping. She reaches into her pack and pulls out a cluster of bright green leaves, stems still fresh with morning dew. Real dew, not the oily condensation we've been collecting from dead trees. Those are beautiful, the Stormrunner says, and I can hear the hunger in his voice. We've been eating dried corn and stale crackers for 3 days. Fresh greens would taste like heaven, but my stomach drops to my boots. Where did you find those? I ask, growing patch about 50 yards that way. She points northeast, the same direction my compass has been pulling us. Healthy soil, no gray veins, plenty more where these came from. The Stormrunner is already reaching for the leaves when I grab his wrist. Don't. Why not? They're growing in good soil. The rule is trust no living plants in dead zones, I say, the words coming back to me in the settlement chief's stern voice. All plants, not just the obviously poisonous ones. The plant eater frowns, and I can see her cycling through memories trying to match them against mine. That's not, no, the rule is avoid dead plants, eat green plants for nourishment. I've been following that rule for months. Haven't I? We stare at each other across the small space between us, and I can feel the ground shifting, not literally, though that happens too, but the foundation of everything we thought we knew. 2 different rules, both of us certain we're right. Maybe, I say slowly, the rules are changing along with everything else. The Stormrunner drops his hand, looking between us like he's waiting for one of us to remember correctly. But memory is slippery when you're starving and scared and breathing air that tastes like copper pennies. I check the compass again. Northeast. Always northeast when the fear starts creeping up my spine like cold fingers. We test them, the plant eater says, breaking off a small piece of leaf. I'll try a tiny bit. If I get sick, we'll know. If you get sick like you did with the berries, you might not have time to warn us, I point out. But she's already putting the leaf fragment on her tongue, chewing slowly, deliberately, testing her body's reaction with the patience of someone who's made this gamble before. We wait. The wind picks up, carrying that humming sound again, closer now, more complex. Not just one note, but several, weaving together into something that almost sounds like music. Almost sounds like voices. Like a choir singing in a language I used to know but forgot. After 10 minutes, the plant eater smiles, but it's a careful smile. Tastes fine. Sweet, even, no burning sensation, no immediate nausea. The Stormrunner starts toward the plant patch, but I'm staring at my compass and my stomach is twisting into knots. The needle is wobbling between northeast and due north, not spinning wildly but uncertain. Hesitant. Like it's as confused as I am about which direction leads to safety. Something feels wrong, I say, tapping the compass face 3 times, then 6 times when the feeling doesn't go away. What do you mean? The plant eater asks, already feeling better, more energetic from the small taste of fresh food. The compass. It's acting strange. I tap it again 9 times now, my panic ritual escalating. The needle keeps wavering. What if those plants are some kind of, I don't know, what if they're not what they seem? Trap set by who? The Stormrunner calls back, his arms already full of green leafy bounty. The Wasteland doesn't set traps, it just kills things. But as he says it, I notice something that makes my chest tighten. The soil around the plant patch has those geometric patterns again, the same 2 perfect lines we saw at our last campsite. Not random cracks or natural erosion. Deliberate markings that form symbols I can't read but somehow recognize, like half-remembered words from a nightmare I had years ago. And the humming is definitely closer. We should leave, I say, standing up too fast and making myself dizzy. Right now. But the food is growing in marked ground. The words come out sharper than I intended, but the compass needle is wavering more frantically now, and the humming has layered harmonies that almost sound like whispered conversations. The plant eater looks at the leaves in her hands, then at me, then at the Stormrunner, who's still gathering what might be our last real meal. Her face goes through a whole conversation without saying a word. Hunger versus caution, hope versus fear, the desperate mathematics of survival. She drops the leaves. He's right, she says quietly. If the plants are this healthy in soil that should be dying, something's feeding them. Something we don't understand. We pack quickly, abandoning the green patch and the promise of fresh food. As we walk away, I keep checking over my shoulder, watching for changes in the soil color, in the plant growth, in the very air itself. What I see makes me stumble and nearly drop the compass. The plants are growing faster, not like time-lapse photography, but definitely faster than normal. Leaves unfurling, stems stretching, like someone cranked up the speed of life itself. And where their roots spread deepest, the geometric patterns in the soil pulse with a faint phosphorescence that has no business existing in broad daylight. Don't look back, I whisper to the others, though I can't stop looking myself. The compass needle settles into a steady northeast bearing, but I don't trust it anymore. Don't trust the rules, mine or the plant eaters. Don't trust the maps I've been scratching together. Don't trust my own memory of what the trader with the limp actually said about Beacon Valley. His voice keeps shifting in my head. Sometimes he says north, sometimes northeast. Sometimes I think he might have said beyond the Green Valley instead of Beacon Valley. What if he said south? What if the safe zone is behind us and I've been navigating us toward the heart of the wasteland because I can't remember a simple conversation without scrambling the details? What if those plants were actually trying to help us and we walked away from the only real nourishment we'll find because I'm too paranoid to accept gifts from a dying world? The humming follows us as we trek northeast, always northeast now, no matter what the compass says, carried on wind that smells like approaching rain but tastes like copper pennies and regret. And I swear, though I'm probably wrong about this too, probably letting fear scramble my senses worse than usual, I swear the sound is keeping time with my compass tapping. Tap, 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 hum. Like the wasteland is learning my rhythm, preparing to sing me home. The humming cuts out at exactly 2:47 p.m. I know because I was doing my compass check when the silence slams into us like a fist. For 6 hours we've been following that sound northeast, that choir voice threading through the dust, and now it's gone. Severed mid-note like someone yanked the power cord on the world's last radio. The absence makes my teeth ache worse than the humming ever did. Way worse. Because in the wasteland, when constant sounds suddenly stop, it means whatever was making them is either dead or close enough to touch. I whip around, compass death gripped in my fist, watching the needle spin like it's having a seizure. Storm. The plant eater's voice cracks on the word. She's pointing south, back the way we came, where the horizon has turned the color of old blood mixed with ash. The sky is folding in on itself, creating geometric patterns that mirror the ones we've been seeing in the soil. Too perfect. Too intentional. But that's not what makes my chest lock up like a rusted trap. The storm's moving in a perfect line, laser straight, Real storms chase pressure systems, follow wind currents, swirl and break apart like nature intended. This thing marches like an army, consuming everything in its path with the precision of Dad's surveying equipment, and I can tell, even with my garbage depth perception, it'll reach us in 15 minutes, maybe 10. The green patch, I stammer, pointing back with a shaking finger. It's completely gone. Where we found those healthy plants 6 hours ago, that lush vegetation the plant eater wanted to feast on, there's nothing now. Not dying plants or withered leaves. Nothing. Like someone took an eraser to reality itself and wiped away everything that had ever grown there. The soil isn't even disturbed. It's been gray dead for decades, judging by the look of it. That's not possible, the Stormrunner says, but his voice is climbing toward panic. Weather doesn't work that fast. Storms don't just erase things. The plant eater is staring at the advancing wall, her face slack with that particular look people get when they realize they're about to die, and there's not a single thing they can do about it. It's not a storm. What are you talking about? Not a storm? Look at it. Actually look at it instead of panicking. She grabs my shoulders, forces me to focus on the approaching darkness instead of my spastic compass. Watch how the debris moves. It's not random. It's organized, flowing in currents that make those same patterns we've been seeing in the soil. She's right, and noticing makes my stomach try to crawl up my throat. The debris isn't chaotic. Chunks of concrete, twisted metal, entire uprooted trees are all moving in those geometric formations. Spirals within spirals, creating symbols that hurt to look at straight on but feel sickeningly familiar, like half-remembered nightmares from childhood. Underneath the visual horror, there's sound now. Not humming, a deep rumbling that comes up through the ground into my bones. Like massive gears grinding after years of silence. Like the earth itself waking up with an appetite. We run, I say, already pivoting northeast because that's where my compass wants to go, even though I've lost all faith in the thing, even though I suspect I've been misreading it for weeks and leading us toward disaster. Wait. The Stormrunner's voice freezes me mid-step. He's facing the advancing wall, water bottle in one hand and something else in the other. Something small and boxy that definitely wasn't in his inventory when we started this morning. You've been carrying that this whole time? My voice cracks on the question. Emergency beacon. Solar-powered. His fingers work the controls with practiced efficiency and a red light starts pulsing. If there's any rescue operation within 50 miles, they'll lock onto this signal and extract us. And if there isn't a rescue operation, the plant eater asks, but she's already backing away from him like the device is venomous. The Stormrunner doesn't answer because he doesn't have to. The beacon's red pulse quickens like a heartbeat under stress, and the approaching wall seems to shift direction slightly, angling toward us with renewed purpose. The wall is maybe 10 minutes away now. I can make out individual pieces of debris spinning in those perfect formations, chunks of buildings, entire vehicles, what looks like trees but might be telephone poles, all moving like parts of some vast machine designed to process everything in its path into component materials. Signals broadcasting, the Stormrunner announces, but doubt is creeping into his voice like water into a sinking boat. Response should be immediate if anyone's monitoring emergency frequencies. We wait. The beacon pulses. The wall advances with mathematical precision. Nothing responds. There's no rescue team, I say, the realization hitting me like cold water. There never was. The traitor with the limp lied about Beacon Valley, about the safe zones, about everything. The plant eater makes a sound somewhere between laughing and sobbing. We've been walking toward it. All day, following your compass northeast, we've been walking straight into the source. That's not, I start to protest, but when I look at the compass, the needle is pointing directly at the approaching wall. Steady as it's been all morning. Northeast. Always northeast. Straight toward whatever's been hunting us. The humming, I whisper, pieces clicking together in my brain like bones breaking. It wasn't the Wasteland making that sound. It was the beacon. That thing's been broadcasting our location all day, hasn't it? The Stormrunner's face drains of color. That's impossible. It only activates when I press. Solar-powered means automatic activation in daylight, you moron, the plant eater screams. We've been carrying a dinner bell for whatever's in that storm. The red pulse quickens, more desperate now, and I swear the approaching wall speeds up in response, like a predator that's caught the scent of wounded prey. "Turn it off," I shout. I can't. The emergency protocol locks the controls until the Stormrunner jabs frantically at buttons that refuse to respond. The only way to stop it is, he hurls the beacon toward the advancing wall as hard as his arm will allow. It arcs through the air, red light still pulsing like a dying heart, and lands maybe 40 yards away in the gray dust. The wall doesn't slow. If anything, it seems to accelerate, and I understand with crystal clarity that it doesn't need the beacon anymore. It has our scent now. It can track our heat signatures, follow our footprints, taste our carbon dioxide and fear, sweat in the air with whatever senses it uses to hunt. "Run," the plant eater whispers. "Where?" I ask because every direction looks identical, because we're standing in the middle of flat wasteland with nowhere to hide and something vast and organized bearing down on us like a geometric freight train. Doesn't matter. Anywhere but here. We run like our lives depend on it, which they do. I've never moved like this before, not just scared running, but with the bone-deep certainty that every second of hesitation brings death closer. The compass bounces against my chest with each pounding step, its familiar weight now feeling like a millstone dragging me down. Behind me, the Stormrunner gasps something that might be prayers or profanity or both. The plant eater pulls ahead with desperate speed, the kind of velocity you only find when death is measuring the distance to your heels and heartbeats. But even she can't outrun what's chasing us. The rumbling grows louder, closer, and when I risk a backward glance, the wall has organized itself into something that looks disturbingly like a mouth. A mouth lined with spinning debris and geometric teeth. "There," the plant eater shouts, pointing toward what looks like a depression in the terrain ahead. Maybe a dried stream bed, maybe an old mining cut, something below ground level that might offer shelter from the organized chaos bearing down on us. We dive into the depression just as the wall reaches the spot where we've been standing. The world detonates into chaos. Wind that doesn't just blow but cuts, filled with fragments of metal and glass that slice through clothing like surgical instruments. Dust that tastes of copper and old bones and things that should have decomposed years ago but somehow persist, preserved in the wasteland's mathematical hunger. Sound that bypasses my ears entirely and vibrates directly through my skeleton, making my teeth rattle loose in their sockets. And woven through it all, that geometric organization I can almost understand but not quite. Like staring at blueprints for something too complex for human comprehension, written in a language that exists purely in mathematics and appetite. I lose the others in the churning darkness. The compass strap finally snaps under the pressure, and Grandma's gift goes spinning away into the storm, taking with it the last anchor to anything that felt like home or direction or hope. Something wraps around my ankle. I try to scream, but the sound gets shredded before it escapes my throat. I kick wildly, expecting claws or teeth, but what I make contact with feels like carved stone. Smooth stone shaped into patterns that pulse with faint phosphorescence, the same geometric designs we've been seeing etched into soil and rock. A grip tightens, and I'm being pulled, not up into the storm, but down, deeper into the depression that's opening beneath me like a carefully excavated pit. A pit lined with those perfect, painful to perceive patterns. I catch a glimpse of the plant eater 30 feet away, her mouth stretched in a scream I can't hear over the geometric howling, her hands clawing at something invisible that's dragging her toward a different section of carved stone. The Stormrunner is nowhere, vanished, consumed by organized chaos, or pulled into his own mathematical grave. As I'm dragged down into patterns that hurt to perceive directly, into spaces that fold in on themselves in ways that violate basic geometry, one last coherent thought crystallizes in my scrambled brain. The wasteland isn't spreading randomly, it's harvesting, and we've been walking straight into the collection zone, following a compass that was never meant to guide us to safety. It was guiding us home to the place where organic matter gets processed into whatever the geometric patterns need to continue their perfect, terrible expansion. The carved stone closes over my head like a mathematically precise sky, and everything goes silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat counting down the seconds, until I understand what I've been mapping all this time. What I've been feeding with my measurements and my fear and my desperate search for safety in a world that was designed to be unsafe. The compass is gone, spinning away into geometric darkness, but I don't need it anymore. I know exactly where I am. I'm in the processing chamber, and the harvest has begun. I wake up 3 times before I trust that waking up is real. First time, I'm still in the processing chamber, carved stone pressing geometric patterns into my spine, and the plant eater is explaining how the beacon worked while her face melts like candle wax. That's obviously a dream because faces don't melt, and the plant eater never explained anything without arguing first. Second time, I'm back in Mom's kitchen making coffee, and she's telling me the geometric storm was just a bad movie I fell asleep watching. But Mom's been gone since the dustfall took our town 4 years ago, so that can't be right either. Third time, I'm lying face down in gray dust with my mouth full of dirt and my ankle throbbing like someone tried to tear my foot off. This feels real. This feels like the kind of thing that would happen after being dragged into a geometric nightmare by carved stone appendages. But I'm alone, completely, utterly alone in flat wasteland that stretches to every horizon without variation. No depression where we dove for cover. No carved patterns in the soil. No storm wall, no debris field, no evidence that anything interesting or terrible ever happened here. Just me and approximately 10 million tons of lifeless gray dust under a sky, the color of old bones. I sit up slowly, checking for parts that might be missing or rearranged. Everything seems attached correctly, though my ankle is swollen purple and my right palm has a perfect circular burn that wasn't there before. Something that looks disturbingly like the geometric patterns we were seeing etched in the soil in carved stone, but simplified down to just one ring within another ring. The compass is gone. Obviously gone, because I remember the strap breaking, remember watching Grandma's gift disappear into the organized chaos. But losing the compass feels like losing more than just direction. It feels like losing the last proof I was ever really moving forward instead of just walking in circles. Without it, I can't tell which way northeast is anymore. Can't tell which way anything is. The sun is directly overhead, casting no shadows, giving me exactly 0 navigational information. Plant eater, I call out, just to break the silence. My voice disappears into the wasteland without echo or response, like speaking into a soundproof room designed to swallow noise. Storm runner? Nothing, not even wind. I turn in a complete circle, scanning for any sign of them. Footprints, dropped equipment, bloodstains, anything that would prove other people existed, and we went through that geometric horror together. But the dust shows no disturbance except where I'm sitting now. Like I fell from the sky into this exact spot and nowhere else has ever been touched by human presence. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe the storm, the carved stone, the processing chamber, maybe that was all one long panic-induced hallucination brought on by dehydration and terror. Maybe I collapsed hours ago from heat exhaustion and dreamed the whole thing while unconscious. But the burn on my palm argues otherwise. Burns don't come from dreams. And there's something else. Something I only notice because the silence is so complete it makes tiny sounds seem loud. A humming. Faint but steady, coming from inside my chest? No, that doesn't make sense. From my pocket, maybe. I check my pockets systematically. Left hip, empty water bottle holder where the plant eater's spare bottle used to be. She must have grabbed it before the storm hit. Right hip, water bottle still half full, though it tastes metallic now. Left chest, nothing. Right chest, something small and hard and definitely not something I remember putting there. I pull it out. It's a piece of carved stone, no bigger than a marble, covered in those perfect geometric patterns that make my eyes water when I try to focus on them directly. The humming is definitely coming from it, the same choir voice sound we followed all morning before it cut out at 2:47 p.m., just quieter now, like it's been turned down to a whisper. The smart thing would be to throw it as far as possible and run in the opposite direction. But I can't make myself let go of it. Patterns draw my attention like gravity, and there's something almost comforting about the humming. Like a lullaby, if lullabies were designed by mathematicians who never quite understood what children found soothing. Besides, where would I run? I'm standing in the middle of identical gray wasteland in every direction, with no compass, no landmarks, and no idea which way leads toward anything resembling safety. At least the stone gives me something to hold on to, something that proves recent events weren't entirely hallucination. I cup it in my burned palm where it sits perfectly in the circular mark like it was custom-made for that exact space. The humming grows slightly louder, more complex. Not just one voice now, but harmonies layering on top of each other in mathematical progressions that shouldn't be beautiful but somehow are. And underneath the sound, I start to understand things I shouldn't be able to understand. The wasteland isn't random at all. It's a carefully managed system designed to sort and process organic matter in specific ways. What I've been calling spreading is actually harvesting, collecting biological material and converting it into something else, something that requires perfect geometric organization to function properly. The compass wasn't broken or lying. It was working exactly as intended, guiding me to the collection point where I'd be most useful to the system, where my organic matter and accumulated knowledge could be processed most efficiently. And the others, Plant Eater, Storm Runner, everyone else who's walked into the wasteland thinking they were escaping it, they weren't killed or vaporized. They were recruited, converted, made into part of the system that maintains the perfect mathematical expansion. But where are they now? If they were converted like I apparently am being, shouldn't they still be here? Unless the conversion process happens in stages. Maybe I'm still in the early phase, still mostly human enough to remember being human. Maybe they're further along, already dispatched to other sectors to continue the collection work. The stone pulses against my palm like a heart, and I know with sudden clarity that it's not just a fragment of the processing chamber. It's a seed, a growth node, and carrying it means I'm no longer just wandering through the wasteland hoping to find an exit. I'm part of the expansion now. The knowledge should terrify me, should send me scrambling to dig the stone out of my palm and bury it in the dust. But instead, it feels like finally understanding the punchline to a joke I've been hearing for months without getting it. Of course, there were no safe zones. Of course, the trader with the limp was feeding us false information about Beacon Valley. Of course, every direction we traveled led deeper into the system instead of away from it, following my compass northeast toward what I thought was safety. We were never supposed to escape. We were supposed to be gathered, processed, and integrated into something larger and more organized than random human survival. The wasteland doesn't spread randomly because it's not a wasteland. It's a garden, and gardens need gardeners. I look down at the stone in my palm, at the geometric patterns that no longer hurt to perceive directly, and realize I can read them now like text written in a language I've always known but never tried to speak. They're instructions, not orders, exactly. More like suggestions, guidelines for optimal expansion, recommendations for identifying productive collection zones and managing organic resources efficiently. I could follow them. I could walk north, and I know which way north is now. The stone whispers directions directly into my nervous system like the compass used to, and start the collection process in sectors that haven't been properly harvested yet. Places where humans still cluster in small communities, telling themselves they're survivors instead of recognizing their role as raw materials awaiting processing. It would be satisfying work, meaningful work. Instead of wandering aimlessly through gray dust, hoping for rescue that will never come, I could contribute to something permanent, something that builds instead of just consuming. The stone's humming intensifies, and I feel my feet turning toward what I now know is north without any conscious decision on my part. Just one step, then another, then a dozen. Walking feels different now. Instead of the desperate scrambling I've been doing for weeks, checking Grandma's compass obsessively, second-guessing every direction, panicking over every decision while following its pull northeast, I'm moving with purpose, with confidence. Following patterns that make mathematical sense instead of just hoping for luck and trusting inherited navigation tools. The burn on my palm doesn't hurt anymore. If anything, it feels warm in a pleasant way, like holding a cup of hot coffee on a cold morning, and the stone sits in the circular mark like it's always belonged there, humming its geometric lullabies while I walk toward coordinates that write themselves across my field of vision in perfect, painful to perceive script. I should be horrified by what I'm becoming. should be fighting against the integration process, clinging to whatever scraps of human identity I have left. But honestly, being human was exhausting. All that fear and uncertainty and desperate hope for rescue that never materialized. All that time spent mapping the Wasteland's expansion without understanding what I was really documenting. This is better, cleaner, more efficient. I'm still me, after all. Still the same person who inherited Grandma's compass and used it to navigate by, not knowing it was guiding me toward collection rather than safety. I just understand now that navigation was never about finding safety. It was about finding my proper place in a system too complex for unaugmented human comprehension. The coordinates shift slightly in my vision, adjusting my path toward what I now recognize as a small settlement maybe 15 miles northeast. 43 humans, mostly adults, some children, all still operating under the delusion that survival means avoiding the wasteland instead of joining it. I'll help them understand. The stone hums approvingly and I walk faster, eager to begin the work I was always meant to do. Behind me, the gray dust settles back into perfect, undisturbed patterns, showing no trace of footprints or human passage. Like I was never there at all. Like I was never lost in the first place. The wasteland spreads quietly in all directions, patient and mathematical and exactly as large as it needs to be. For now,